Do you set big goals but never keep yourself accountable to them? If so, then stick around because this video is just for you. Today, I'm sharing a super simple method that not only increases your accountability, but also your productivity. After implementing it, you'll not only become a high performer, but you'll also be building the necessary skill set to become an efficient leader. If you're interested in developing even more personal and professional habits, just like accountability, then don't forget to hit subscribe and tap that bell so you get notified the next time a new video airs. As a fourth generation entrepreneur, I've always taken my own personal accountability for granted. I've always had role models throughout the course of my life who always set plans into action as well as made sure they were making progress on them. So it's not something that I ever really considered wasn't normal or something that everybody could do. Later on in my career, when I started working with people to help them shift from an employee to an entrepreneurial mindset, was when I realized that what I take for granted is not something that most people can do easily. It's not natural for some, but it can be with practice and a system in place. And that's exactly what I'm going to share with you how to do today. Today, we are talking about how to stay accountable. So I'm really focusing today on how to stay accountable to yourself, right? Because once you learn self-accountability, which is such an important skill, especially as an aspiring entrepreneur, to shift from that employee to entrepreneurial mindset, you really need to be able to master this skill. And then once you master it for yourself, it ultimately is going to help you become a better leader down the road because it's going to make it easier for you to keep other people who are working for you or on your team accountable. In order to keep yourself accountable, you have to know what you are keeping yourself accountable for. If you haven't already, you got to make sure that you have crystal clear goals. And if you're unsure on what this process looks like, make sure you check out the last training that I did on this topic. I walked you through from start to finish exactly how to go about setting goals for yourself and your business, right? Or whatever it is that you're working towards. You have to have crystal clear goals as well as mile marker goals to know how you are moving along in the process of taking action on said goals, because we need to be able to, through this process, keep you accountable that you're doing what you need to do that you had outlined in that goal planning session to make sure that you're staying on track to hit said goal, right? So that is super, super important. From there, we're going to implement something that I call a recap routine. This is a routine. Don't get freaked out. It's nothing complicated at all whatsoever. In fact, this is the simplest thing you could ever imagine doing. So basically what the recap routine does is you basically make an appointment with yourself and you do it on a regular basis. So for example, you could do them daily, you could do weekly. I recommend at minimum weekly, monthly, quarterly, biannually, and then annually, right? So break out your calendar. From there, you're setting regular appointments for yourself and blocking out time to make sure that you look over your progress towards said goals. If you don't have these regular check-ins with yourself, number one, you're not going to know whether or not you're on track to accomplish what it is that you want to do. And number two, you're not going to be able to pivot quickly, recognizing that whatever it is that you're taking action on, it's not working or it's not having the results that you want. Of course, we want to make sure that we're staying consistent. The recap process is beautiful in that it helps you maintain that consistency because every single week you're kind of bringing to the front of your mind exactly what it is that you're working towards and what your priorities are. So it works beautifully for that. But it also helps you have a very, very clear picture on exactly what you thought you should be taking action on, whether or not it's working. Because you could be taking action on something and of course you want to make sure you have some level of consistency before you give up and say, this ain't working. You don't want to just do it once and be like, I'm not seeing results. But after a good amount of time, say a month or a calendar quarter, if it's just not having the results and there's other things that you're looking at that are, then it's time to make sure that you pivot your strategy and that you double down on what's working, right? So the recap process allows you to do this. From there, the simplest thing that you do is you schedule time for it. So you're going to take out whatever time management tool that you use to track your tasks, your to-do lists, and your calendar. right? So it could be a Google Calendar. That's what I personally use. It could be a paper planner. It could be something on your computer. It could be a spreadsheet. It doesn't matter, wherever it is that you are looking each and every day to see what it is that you need to accomplish. That's where you want to be organizing this. I do mine actually in a combination between my Google Calendar is where I set the appointment to do it, but then I actually do the process that I'm going to share with you in a program called Asana, which is a project management tool. But it's whatever tools that you use to manage your to-dos list. It'll work for anything. How is all this landing for you so far? Go ahead and give me a thumbs up in the comments. Granted that this is all making sense and resonating for you so far. From here, you're going to every week or month or quarter evaluate. And it's really this simple. So during that time that you had blocked out, you're going to ask yourself a series of questions, which I'm going to share with you today. And you're going to answer those questions, within this time that you blocked. What went well, right? So if I am doing a weekly recap, it's going to be, well, what went well this week? If I'm doing a monthly recap, what went well this month? Quarterly, what went well this quarter? Very simple, very to the point. So this does a few different things. First, it's going to teach you how to focus on the positive. So it's going to help you see where your little wins are throughout the process. Because the truth is, you need to be celebrating each and every little action and every win that you get along the way in order to keep up your motivation to keep going, right? So this is essential. And this is actually something that we teach and is deeply ingrained in the community of my Validate Your Biz Blueprint program, right? Where we are very, very big about celebrating our wins. First one, what went well this week, this month, this day, this quarter, this year, whatever that looks like. That's the first question that you're asking. And then just make an outline, of every single thing that happened. One thing that I do that actually helps me in this process is I will take out my calendar for the week as well as kind of scroll through all my emails just to get a visual reminder of what happened, right, throughout the week. Those are digital records, or it might be a paper record for you of everything that's happened. Because sometimes when you sit down to do this process, you'll forget some amazing gems that had happened that were easy for us to dismiss if we weren't going through this process. And from there, we're going to look at the opposite. So what didn't go well? Great example for me last week. One thing that I had put on my my weekly recap was I had, and you guys actually may have been a part of this too. I had scheduled to do a live webinar training. It was a 60-minute live webinar on how to go from, idea to landing your first paying client, right? And the reason that it did not go well for me is because I had messed up and had accidentally scheduled the event for Atlantic time instead of Eastern time, which is the time I had thought I had done it for. That day, I realized 10 minutes into the session when I started getting emails and messages from people, hey, where are you? I thought this was starting. I realized that I had made this huge mistake, right? So that was one thing that did not go well. And it was important for me to own it. And you're going to find as you go through this process too, there are things that aren't going to work. And by being able to identify what it is that didn't work, that brings us to the very next question, which is the most important one. What will I do differently? Right? So what am I going to do differently, whether it be this week, next year, whatever that time frame is that you're looking at. So using my webinar fail as an example, right? Super simple. I'm just going to make sure that I double check every time I schedule a webinar that I made sure that the time zone is correct. I'm also going to make sure I communicate this with my team if I have somebody else scheduling the webinar for me. Right? I'm always going to double check that. So that's a super simple fix. Sometimes when it's a larger project or other types of tasks, it may not be as quick of a fix. You may have to change your strategy, overall. Okay, well, this strategy didn't work. So what am I going to do differently next week? Having this kind of touch point to kind of look at everything that's going on. All right, this went well, this didn't go well. So what do I need to change? It's going to be a game changer to keeping you accountable and motivated and keeping going, because you're going to have full visibility to everything that's going on, what's working, and then you can double down on what's working. So after you figure out, what went well, what didn't go well, and what you're planning to do differently, next step up is figuring out what's next for you. So I recommend that you pick maybe max 3 priorities for the following week or the following month, quarter, whatever that looks like for you. Pick 3 that you are going to prioritize as being the focus for the following time frame. So great example for this for me, for coming into this week, my priorities, and I actually have them on a Post-it note on my computer that I keep there. My priorities for this week were my making connections with people online and doing my enrollment calls and connection calls. It's a part of my business process that I use to help enroll people into my programs. To promote, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, a case study live event that I have going on next week, as well as I'm in the process of hiring and expanding my team. So that was another priority for me that I listed in my weekly recap last week, but it's now scheduled into everything that I am doing this week. And I keep my priorities front and center right on my laptop where I can see them so that I stay focused on the task at hand and I keep myself accountable. To kind of recap everything we talked about today, first steps first, you got to make sure you have clear goals already set. If you don't, be sure you definitely want to check out my last video that I did on how to set goals. I walk you through from start to finish how to set clear, actionable goals that you're going to actually be motivated to take action on, right? So make sure you're starting off with clear goals. Then you're going to want to establish this recap routine. The recap routine is the secret to keeping yourself accountable. So you're going to schedule time on your calendar. Do it, once a week, once a month, once a quarter, every 3 months, once every 6 months, and then once a year, right? Set yourself appointment times to do this process then. And it's as simple as during that dedicated, hour, half an hour that you set for yourself, asking yourself the questions, what went well? What didn't go well? What can I do differently next time? And making sure that you're setting priorities for yourself moving forward. And then from there, you're taking action. Now, the thing that's great about having this, recap routine is that this is what keeps you accountable, because you're going to have that next checkpoint on your calendar. So long as you make sure that you are holding that time for yourself, you are going to be very, very self-aware of exactly what you are and aren't doing to take action towards your goal. So that's going to ultimately help you in the long run. So that sums it up. If you're watching today's video with the goal of starting a business so that you can achieve the freedom and flexibility that comes with being an entrepreneur, then my program, the Validate Your Biz Blueprint, might be the perfect fit to help you reach that goal. Click the link below in the description to book a call with me to see if it would be a good fit. Go ahead and check out these videos next for developing even more skills just like personal accountability. And if you like this video, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. I'll see you next time.